Hi, I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery in Indianapolis, Indiana.
And I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, located in Southgate, Kentucky.
And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Hey guys, we've loved answering all of your questions so far. If you'd like to hear your question on the podcast, please send them to us on Instagram at Wheel Talk Podcast or by email to wheeltalkpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks.
Hello.
Hello!
Hello. Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Becca. It's been a while since we've chatted, just the two of us. Just
I know.
the two of us.
Yes. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I lifted 1,000 pounds of clay into the vehicle and out of the vehicle, and
That's always fun.
I'm restocked. So it's taking up more room in my studio, and it makes me feel like my studio is super unorganized with all the clay the clay and then the glaze buckets just everywhere. It's like you can't even get to the wedging table. It's nuts.
If my studio is like that, I won't even work. I just won't go in there.
well, like my assistant's gonna be over tomorrow to prep clay, and I'm like, we're just gonna put some boards on top of the wheels, and they can prep the clay right there on top of the wheels instead of over at the wedging table. Because let's not complicate it.
Right?
So. Yeah, I had a show this weekend. It's already Wednesday, but I had a show this past weekend. We actually haven't chatted since I started doing shows, but I had the show on May 1st, which was my best show I've ever done, single day or 2-day.
Yes, and I know what you made. I don't know if you want to say what you made.
It. I sold more than $4,000 worth of stuff in one day.
Fuck yeah!
And so this was the show, the Clay Alliance Spring Pottery Fair. So I'm the president of the Clay Alliance, and we were kind of on the fence about whether we were going to do the show on time or not do the show on time. COVID's a reality. All these other, not all these other, but a few other shows were canceling, and there was kind of questions about whether you could hold an event and what precautions to do, because we had to cancel it last year. But we ended up doing it because it's completely volunteer run. Like, it's members that step up to join the committee to plan it and everything, and I was basically like a co-chair of the event. So we had a group of 6 or 7 of us that planned it and put it on. So there was about 35 artists there, and I think the overwhelming result was like everybody was pleased with it that I heard from. All the people that were there like sold well. They probably didn't sell as well as I did. Everybody, I was probably in the top maybe 10% of the artists that sold that well.
Yeah.
But from what I heard of all the other artists, I mean, it's a
happy.
collector show. Like, people come back to that show every year, and it's a lot of the people that sell full time. Like, it's usually their best show of the year.
That's awesome.
And people come back, so people were happy to be there. It was really nice. I would say, probably 90% of the people were masked out there. It was outdoor, everybody spread out. It was perfect weather, and that show went great. I had a show this weekend that was a newer one. It used to be in a brewery, and they moved it outside to this park that was about 15 minutes north of where it normally was. So it was a little bit like outside of the neighborhood that it was usually, so it kind of had to pull people there. But it was nice. It was great weather again. And I sold a little over $2,000 there. So, like, shit,
Ryan, you're gonna do so fucking good this year. I'm excited. I'm excited for you.
It's gonna be good. So I've been a lot of those sales were lower priced items, but like I sold 55 spoon rests at the Spring Pottery Fair. Like, that's nuts. Crazy. And I sold like 35 of them at this show this past weekend. Like. And I raised the prices on them, so I was a little iffy about the whole like $12 to $15 price change. And like, they're selling well. I gotta make some more. I keep making more, and I'm trying to do that. So it's been good. I'm happy with it, and I'm glad I have another, basically, like, from right now I have another couple weeks before my next show. So I have only a couple shows in June, and then July will start kind of ramping up a little bit, but.
When are we doing the backyard show?
At the end of July. July
Well, I
24th
don't know if
in
I'm going to be
Louisville.
able to make it. I mean, obviously I'm coming, but like,
Whether you'll
I
have
don't,
pieces or not.
I don't have a kiln yet.
Yeah. Well, if not, you can just hang out with us at the house. And,
Yeah.
you know, Rachel's going to sell there, I think. Her dad's going to sell there. I'm going to sell there. Yeah, there'll be a few of us there. So there should be, I think there's going to be about 10 or so. We're going to max out at 12. I think we've got about about 9 on board right now. So. Yeah.
Nice.
Should be good. So
Nice.
that's been my last couple weeks and pretty
Cool.
much it. So how about yourself?
It's been okay. I've been okay. Let's see. I feel like nothing's really changed all that much. I got I started taking, this is not clay related at all, but I started taking an antidepressant because it might help with my fibromyalgia. And
What's fibromyalgia?
Oh, yeah. So fibromyalgia is like when you are sore all the time, essentially.
Oh, so it's like a muscle thing?
Yeah, it's an autoimmune disease that I have. So anyway, I started taking this antidepressant that's supposed to help with it, and I took it at night, and I was up like wide awake at 4 a.m. Is
that one of the symptom or not symptoms, the
side effects? Yeah, I don't know. And then I took it in the morning today, and now I kind of feel like I'm hungover all day, and so I'm like still trying to figure out like what is going on with it. But when I texted you and I was like, "Can we start later?" That's because I was sleeping.
Oh. So you're still figuring out like what time of day to take it where it's beneficial, that it doesn't like kill your productivity.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like it would be a relaxant, right?
I don't know. I don't know for sure.
For your muscles and stuff, but you said antidepressant, so it's not.
Yeah, and I thought it was really strange. Like the doctor was like, "Yeah, it's an antidepressant, but it also helps with like the pain." And so I was like, "That's sweet. I could kill 2 birds with 1 stone." Yeah. He was like, are you depressed and anxious? I'm like, "Yeah, fuck yeah." Like,
do you still have with you throwing more and whatnot on a daily basis? I remember you used to have more foot issues. Do you still have those kind of foot problems with your, or maybe that was just a side effect of your old wheel?
Oh, yeah. So that's why I bought this new wheel, for sure, was because of that. So for everybody that doesn't know, I have this thing called a subtalar coalition in my right ankle, and essentially something's messed up with my like cartilage between the bones and my ankle or something like that, and I was born with it. And so that's why I can't stand while throwing. It's super duper painful. And anyway, yeah, it's been a lot better. I think that the environment change has been really good. I noticed that when it's gonna start raining, my ankle starts swelling and like hurting more. So I'm wondering if like, because I was in Washington and it rains like every single day, if that was an issue.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like obviously humidity and like weather changes are known to like cause like bone and stuff issues, like with soreness and stuff. But so I've just noticed that every time it rained, my ankle started hurting. So I was like, oh. And then, I've been eating a lot better, and I'm stopped eating gluten. So that's helped with like inflammation and stuff. So, yeah. So yeah, it has been a lot better. I haven't really had any issues at all.
I wasn't sure if that was partially because of the like mechanical nature of your old wheel, that you had to kind of keep your foot steady. I don't know if your new wheel, can you take your foot off and it stays, or?
Yeah, you can take your foot off and it stays, and obviously, I mean, I leave it on there because I throw with so many variable speeds, but I think it's a little bit more ergonomical for my foot, so that's nice.
Yeah, I threw on your old wheel one time at your new studio, and I was like, this is weird.
Yeah, it's fucking weird. It's weird. Yeah, it's for everybody that doesn't know, my old wheel is a Soldner, which is the same as my new wheel, but it's got a wooden foot pedal that's connected to a bike chain that's connected to the motor. So it's
But
like
it's
a wooden
but it's not like
board.
static anywhere. It's not. It feels like it's like halfway together. Like it needs something to sit on the floor to keep it like at the certain angle, and you just put your foot on it to push it down and push it back. Like
Yeah, it's like floating in the air.
Yeah.
And like the bottom of the board's on the floor. Yeah. So it's a little strange. I remember when I bought it, the lady was like, "You're going to have to come here and look at this wheel before you put a hold on it." but yeah, anyway, apart from that, on a side note, I have I started painting a little bit more, and my friend Jen ordered a painting from me, and so I'm starting to do that, which is kind of fun. I had some issues with the sealant today, so that'll be interesting.
Before you finished it, or were you just doing it for fun and they saw it and were like, I want something like that?
No, she commissioned it for her dad. So.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I've been having some issues with that, which is really not great, but it's fine. It's whatever. And then on top of that, I've gotten into a lot of what we're going to talk about today, pretty much. I've really gotten into finance and stuff in the last couple of weeks, and I've decided that I'm going to be a millionaire by the time that I'm 40.
And how old are you right now?
I'm 31.
Is that a taboo question?
I texted my dad,
ask?
and he said it's not going to be an issue.
Nice. There you go.
I don't know. Can you imagine getting a text like from your kid being like, "Hey, Dad, I want to be a millionaire by the time that I'm 40." How's that sound? He probably doesn't even know how old I am. And
Probably like, wait, are you 28 or? Oh, 31. Ooh, all right. That's gonna be tough.
Somebody yesterday was like, "Well, you got 2 decades to go," and I was like, "I'm 31." I'm like, that's 9 years.
Jeez. Well, just because you're a millionaire doesn't mean you make $1 million as a salary every year. It's just you have $1 million to your name.
Yeah, but that's what I've decided, and I think it's a really
set your goal and figure out how to set your goal and figure out a way to work towards it little by little, and making the right decisions.
How cool would that be if I became a millionaire and I made less than $40,000 a year doing it?
There you go. And documenting along the way of just like,
I should probably start a fucking blog.
What's that?
I should probably start a blog.
There you go. If you like writing and all that.
Yeah, I'll call it Pot of Gold.
There you go. Pots of gold. Pot of gold.
The Goldie Pots. The gold pots. Anyway. Okay, so we're going to talk about that, but we're going to hit a listener question and then a what would you do if. Let's do what would you do if, and I have a story about that.
Okay.
So 2 weeks ago, we did a what would you do if, and it was the one where, there's our train. It was the one where,
third co-host making an appearance.
There it goes. It was the one where we were talking about what would happen if the lid collapsed, and Val Flynn, one of my best friends, was listening, and she was super into it, and she was freaking out a little bit, and then right when we were talking about it, a huge piece in her kiln exploded. She had this footstone or something for her husband that exploded in the kiln, and she said that it freaked her out so bad just because it was really loud when we were talking about the kiln.
Yeah, I bet that would. And then you hear it initially and you're listening to sound, if you hear shelves collapsing and crashing.
Yeah.
Jeez. All right.
Okay.
So the what would you do if is actually similar to that, is what would you do if you hear a pot or pots blow up during a bisque firing?
I think we should make this a two-part. What would you do if you heard pots doing a bisque firing and a glaze firing?
Oh. I've actually had
Bisque
experience
firing?
with both, but yeah.
Bisque firing? What can you do?
I mean, you can't really
Actually,
do anything. It's just the bisque firing is the lower risk of the two. It's like obviously your pieces aren't done yet. Like if your pieces blow up in a glaze, like your shit's gonna stick to other stuff. So like that's more of a risk. But the bisque firing, I feel like it's not as big of a deal unless you have a bunch of other stuff stacked inside it or something, and like the blowing up causes other stuff to shift. I mean, maybe, but I don't feel like it's. I mean, you can't really do anything about it either, but I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
okay, I've had plenty of things blow up in the bisque. Plenty. Uh, Not in the last couple of years, but uh, you just let it be.
Are there common forms that blow up that you've had?
Bigger ones, or thicker pieces. Like, I was trying to push a bisque for a student once, and it was like a really thick piece, and it blew up in the bottom. But like,
how thick are we talking,
if,
and how long did you have a hold on it for people to kind of get an idea?
I probably had a hold on it for like an hour.
Oh,
and like, and it was in my little kiln. No, like they needed it the next day. They were like
Holy
trying
crap.
to push me to fire it the next day. And I was like, I don't know. I'll try. And so I did. And I was trying to like release some of the, I would always vent my kilns by opening up the top a little bit. And I like looked in there because when they explode, they're exploding at like 300 degrees. They're not exploding at like 12.
Well, they're exploding at boiling point, so it's most likely
Yeah.
like 210 degrees or something like that,
Yeah, 210, whatever, like up there. And so, like, I guess you can turn it off. Like, you can turn off your kiln and put it back on 200 and boil it out. If it's, if it's like a popcorn effect where everything's exploding, turn the fucker off. But
I feel like all that's going to happen at about the same time, right? Based on the thickness. I mean,
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be within minutes of each other, I would guess.
Yeah, and like, if you have like one thick piece in your kiln and that's the thing that explodes, like in all the other ones, they're probably fine. So you just let it go, bisque it all the way through, and clean it up when it's done.
Yeah. I mostly had pieces that it was a lot of pitchers because I have that clay at the bottom where the sidewall meets the floor was usually like maybe an inch thick because I don't trim them, so I kind of like smooth them off. Or it could be like a serving bowl that has a thicker bottom with a trimmed foot, or sometimes oil bottles have done that when I rushed them because I don't trim them. They might have a 3/4 inch thick where the sidewall meets the foot. That's usually the thickest part of my pieces that blow out, and usually they'll blow out the bottom, and then they'll like the sides and everything will be fine because they're only a 1/4 inch thick or 1/8 of an inch or whatever they are. So
maybe you need to start trimming your pictures.
Kind of awkward. I don't know how to. Sometimes I would facet them. Usually, what I do when I start blowing pieces up is I'll like definitely not rush them. Like, don't throw them in a kiln and use the hold setting to get them. Like, I would much rather wait another firing than put a hold for like 6 hours on a bisque kiln. Like,
sometimes
I'm going to have a kiln that fires between those two firings, and like I would rather throw those pitchers on top of the bisque kiln that I'm going to load that I have confidence nothing's going to blow up, and dry them out more and more because they're sitting on top of a kiln that's really fucking hot. I'd rather do that and then put them in the next kiln, and that gives me more confidence that, hey, I can fire this kiln and like probably put a 2-hour hold on it, and these pieces are going to be fine, or 1-hour hold and they'll be fine.
Yeah, I feel like when I was in Washington, and I feel like it's the same here, is that the humidity is so high that it doesn't really matter when you put them in. They're always going to be like not all the way dry, so you got to hold it at least a little bit. But I've always thrown my pieces pretty damn thin, so I've never held all that much. The only reason that there was like long holds was ever because of students.
Yeah. I would imagine a lot of those student places, like they have to put like 6 hour holds on them in a
Oh
minimum.
yeah, they would have to.
Plus
They would
they're
have
working
to.
week to week, and like they got to get those things cycled through there quick.
Yeah. If a pot, I've never had a pot explode in the glaze kiln.
Well, I haven't
I
had
feel
a
like that's
pot explode. Maybe if you're single firing, that would be an issue.
yes. If you were single firing, that would be an issue.
You got to know what the hell you're doing for single firing, man. That stuff. I've single fired one thing before, and it was just a mug, I think, because it was iffy. The whole glazing part was like scary to me, but I just did like a single dip kind of thing. Like it wasn't that fancy.
Yeah, no,
but
it freaks me out too. Like, but yeah, you have to bisque it first, and then you switch it over. Once you hit quartz inversion, then you go all the way up.
yeah,
So, but yeah, I think that if like, I feel like not like what would you do if, but my reaction if I heard an explosion or like shelves tumbling in a glaze kiln is I'd probably just sit on the floor. I would I would probably just like find a corner and sit on a floor and just be quiet for a while.
yeah. Well, I said at the beginning that I had that experience with a glaze kiln, but the thing that I had that blew up in a glaze kiln was a cone pack. I've had a cone pack explode in a glaze kiln because I didn't let
Because
that
you're
dry
single
enough.
firing the
The cone pack, yeah.
yeah.
So now I've learned make your cone packs before you really need them, like
Yes.
like a week before at a minimum, and then like
Just make a bunch. Make like 30 of them.
yeah. Well, I make a bunch of them. I might make like 15 or 25 or something, but and then I get down and I only have like 2 left, and I'm like, well, I need a third one because I put them at the bottom, middle, top,
Yeah.
and it's like, in that
This
case,
is a
I would probably
reminder.
rather like not put a cone pack in there if it's gonna be like made that minute, because I'm not gonna put a hold on a glaze kiln.
Have you ever gotten those I used to,
Those brick things that you can put
Yeah.
the cones in.
yeah, they're fucking great. Like I bought like 4 of them and even cuz I only
That would be
put
great.
what?
That would be great. I need to get some of those. I
You
keep,
should. I mean, they're like $2, and really, it saves you so much time. You just stick the cones in. The only thing that's a bummer, I would maybe put kiln wash on them or something. The only thing that's a bummer is that if you have a really like melted cone, it's hard to get it off. But I usually just put 2 cones in because I know my kilns are so consistent, so I didn't really need the like 4. If I was firing to 5, I would do 5 and 6.
yeah. I've seen some
but-
people use soft brick, so they'll take like old brick that they use, chop it
Yeah,
up
that's a
into a
great
little
idea.
square, and then cut out the little triangles for the cones, and just use soft
Yeah,
brick.
you just got to make sure it's at like the right angle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, I feel like that you could even make one a little bit bigger and fire it all the way and just continue to fire that one too and coat it with some kiln wash or some alumina. Or
Yeah,
something.
I mean, I would definitely use it to just reuse the same ones over and over if I could.
Yeah.
Or at least have them as a backup, like in case I come into
Yeah.
that situation where I didn't make cone packs and I just wanted to throw one in there. Like,
Yeah.
that'd be great to have.
That's like one of those little like super low cost things that just makes your life so much easier. Is those little bricky things.
Yeah, I don't know if the suppliers near me. Like, if I went to Queen City Clay, I don't know that they have those.
Yeah, like I was surprised to see them. Like I was like, "Oh, what are these?"
Yeah, I would
like,
totally
hello.
buy them if I saw them there, but it could be one of those where it's like on a shelf somewhere that I just don't see.
Right.
Like, it should be right there by the cones. Like, hey, get some of these.
Yeah, mine were right by the posts. They were not by the cones. They were by the posts. So
Yeah. Well, the cones are above the post in there, so it's like right by each other
Yeah.
in the cone shelves and stuff.
yeah,
All right. Should we move on to the questions?
we should move on.
All right, we're 24. All right, so this is kind of similar a little bit. So the first part is Alexa Michelle Pottery. When do you recommend registering as a business, and do you have a separate bank account for your business? I don't know what they mean by registering as a business. Does that mean like taking your name kind of thing, like federally, like registering your name? your business name? Is that kind of what they mean by that?
I think so, yeah. I guess like it's different for states because apparently in Indiana you don't need a business license. You just need a. I haven't looked totally into it because I haven't really done any business, but you just need a license, like a tax license.
Yeah. I think
I
that's
would
the same in
say-
Kentucky. Like, does it, and it matters based on if you're sole proprietor and stuff like that too, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah. So like in Washington, you have to get a business license pretty. Like your business license, you have to have it to get the tax license. So a reseller's permit. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of just doing it right away. Honestly,
That just means you have an FEIN number?
Yeah.
That's what you mean by your business license? Well, that's a
UBI.
federal number.
UBI number.
UBI number.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of doing it right away, but like if this is like a side hustle that you might not want to do and might want to do, then I would say maybe wait a little while. But if you're like full force balls to the walls, I would say do it now.
What's
Why are you waiting?
benefit of it when it's got like does it differ at all if your name is in the business name? Like, are you worried about claiming it so nobody else claims it, or
No, you're worried about getting audited.
okay?
Like you don't want to be doing business illegally.
Well, you're still. Are you trying to say like if you're not registered as a business, that means you're not paying taxes on the
Right.
income? Okay.
Yeah.
That's just saying that hey, I'm a business. I'm going to be paying income taxes
Yeah.
and sales tax and stuff like that.
Sales tax and stuff like that. So
Okay.
yeah, I would say do it immediately. And then also my rule of thumb is when you start the business, you get a business account. They go hand in hand. Business bank account is necessary when you own a business.
And you do, and the thing is, like, my bank account for the business is not considered like a business account. Mine is just a separate checking account.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'm a sole proprietor, so it's like my name. It's got my names on the checks and stuff like that. Like, it's not like you don't have to pay a monthly fee or a yearly fee for like a business banking account to say I am doing this for the business. Like,
Right.
it could just we just mean like separate account.
Yeah, and like I don't know if I'm pretty sure I've always had a regular business account. I've gone like full tilt business. And it is a thing. Like it is a process to get a business bank account. Like you have to have a letter from the Secretary of State. You have to have like all these weird things that I was like
Is that what's the
One time
difference
I
between
found-
having it as a business account versus a consumer account? Like, is there? I assume there's legalities in there of like.
I think it's like if you have I don't know, but this is my guess. I think it's that if you have like an LLC, it creates like a barrier for liability.
Right. Okay. Otherwise, my accounts are all considered my money.
Right, exactly.
All of my
Exactly.
accounts.
Yeah. So, but also, I have to tell you that when I went to do my business account, I was like trying to find all these letters, and you have to get like a letter from the Secretary of State, like stating that like you signed up as an LLC, blah blah blah, and I could not find that letter like anywhere.
Basically,
And
your
then-
acceptance letter of saying like you're
Yeah,
officially an
yeah.
LLC. Here's your certificate of authenticity.
Right. And then or maybe I did find that letter, but then 2 years later, I found it in the pile that I had to shred.
Oh no!
And I had already asked for a second one because you can ask for a replacement. But I was like, oh, there it is. Oh, that's right. I did it. I found it from my bank account, but then when I was applying for a loan, I had to find it again. And it was a shit show. I couldn't find it anywhere.
That needs to be in your safe, your protective safe, that you have all your important documents in.
Right. In my case, a cardboard box. But
Oh.
I figure having this entire building catch on fire is highly unlikely. So
It's all
it's
brick and stuff.
Yeah.
It's brick and concrete, and like the ceilings are wood, but
Yeah. It's all in the past anyway.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to stick to that one and we'll answer the other one later? I think the other one's probably a little bit more.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So thanks for that, Alexa, and we will move into what we're chatting about today. Becca,
Yes.
cue us up.
Okay. Okay, so I have been a lot of well, okay. A lot of us know our backgrounds financially, kind of, but, or kind of where we're at, because we've talked about it a little bit, but, I just recently, I don't know why, I've always been kind of like thinking about getting into investments and stuff like that. And then in the last like 2 weeks, I've dived, dove. I dove like super deep into the financial spectrum of things, and I've been if you're gonna be listening to this next week, so some of you probably remember the marathon of stories that I have done in the last 2 days.
The little Pac-Man chiclets of stories that are like
so fucking ridiculous, about how to do a budget and how to allocate funds and stuff like that. So anyway, I stumbled upon this podcast, Choose Fi, which I mentioned last week. And I've been listening to that, and then also like kind of my dad is financially independent and stuff like that, so I've just been kind of like thinking about it, and I've decided that I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 40, which is he laughs and I laugh every time I say it, because I think that it's not possible, but I do think it's possible at the same time. Like my dad said it was possible.
Is that like a 43 a day till May goal, or is that like
I know. Yeah,
like we're in
like...
in relation to when you set that goal. Let's see, 43 a day till May. You set that in what, February or January?
I did it for like a month.
Okay, so you set it in like January, and you made it like a month, and then you were like, "Oh, I'm not doing that anymore."
I'm not doing that anymore. Yeah, it might be like that. We don't know.
So it'll be like 2 years down the road, you'll be like, "Oh, I'm not doing that anymore."
I'm not doing that.
I'm fucking killing it. I don't know.
No, I don't know. I feel like it's attainable, with what I have. Maybe not, but I did the math, and if I made, I just need to make 10,000 mugs at $100 a piece, and I've made $1 million. That's really what.
Would you say 10,000? Are you talking about at your production pottery rate, or are you talking about if you sell your personal work?
No, if I sell 10,000 of my personal mugs.
You better get fucking going. That kiln does not get... We can't wait for that kiln, Becca.
I know. I was like, that's not going to happen. That's like 119 a month. Something like that.
Holy crap. And you got to sell that many.
Yeah. And you'd have to find the people to sell it to.
Yeah. But the thing is, as you make more, the price goes up because you can't keep up with the demand. Like, that's assuming you sell them all at $100 a piece, I'm assuming, right?
That's correct. And that I don't have any expenses at all. But if I keep doing production pottery, I can use that as my main income, and then put all of the stuff that I make in pottery on the side, my side gig, side hustle. I can put that into savings and start investing it. So, I actually, we started, me and like 5 women that follow me on Instagram. We started a little tiny book club, and we're listening to an investment book.
Nice.
Yeah. It's complicated.
Good old book club. Did book clubs still make it through COVID? I don't know.
I don't know.
Probably met remotely. Got a little
I've
Zoom
never been
book
in a
club.
book club.
I haven't either. I hate books, but
We're doing the audio book club. We're doing an audio book club.
I can't even read those.
You don't read them, Ryan. You listen.
Same thing.
Same. So anyway, I was just thinking about how I think why this is like kind of like put a fire under my bones or whatever in my belly, or what is the term?
Light a fire under your ass.
Oh, sure. I think that the reason was because I listened to this one podcast, and it was this guy, and he was talking about how when he went to, he's a doctor, and when he went to like medical school and stuff like that, he found out that like doctors just don't know anything about investing, and they don't manage their money well because like they make all this money, but they're in debt.
Yeah, they probably have like $500,000 of debt, and they're just...
Yeah, and like in school and stuff like that. And I was thinking about how like all of these podcasts, like even the one that I've been listening to, Choose Fi, it literally says in the tagline, like helping middle America like make money or whatever, you know? And I was thinking about how like we're not, you are, but we're not middle America. Like, you know, like most artists aren't saving any money, and most artists aren't investing any money, and they're not, you know, like,
it sounds
especially
like they're reaching the 9-to-5 people that have families and
right.
They work a 40-hour week job kind of thing. That's kind of sounds like what they're talking about.
Right, and like, you know, it's so we live such an unpredictable lifestyle as like an artist or a potter or what have you, and it can be really hard to like save money and to invest, and like nobody knows how to do that unless you like
seek it out and you have interest in it, right?
Yeah, and so I've just been kind of like thinking about that, and like just
is that would you call the like, is it partially that there's not enough money to act on that, and like learning about investment is like a luxury?
I don't think so.
Because you have the money to put toward that kind of stuff versus like, I don't even have $1,000 of an emergency fund if I need it.
I think that you can invest. I think that you can start to learn to invest with anything. Like I put $10 into Robinhood the other day, like just to see what it would do. You know, you can start with anything, and you can like I think that's a super valuable lesson to be learning, you know? Like put your kids with like have your kids pick out penny stocks or something like that. Like there's things that you can do. But also like yeah, that's another thing, like an emergency fund. Like it scares me how many people don't have an emergency fund. And so I think that it is a luxury until you have that, you know. But like, you know, Andrew, my best friend Andrew, he's like 22. I don't know how old he is. He's somewhere in there. But he started investing because he's really interested in it. And he doesn't have a lot of money into it. Like he'll be like, I lost like $40 today, and I'm like, I lost 500. How are you doing? Like, but it's still cool. Like he's still like seeing how it works and reading articles and like doing stuff like that. And I think that's what's important, you know, like $400.
How do you like, I feel like a lot of the learnings is like kind of troubleshooting a little bit and like looking at actual numbers and like understanding what you're seeing, and like how do you know what a stock to buy or an index fund, like what do you look for? Like do those kind of things seem so like intricate that it's hard to understand that without talking to someone financial, that like you probably don't want to spend the money to like consult with somebody that is a financial advisor or something? Like does that make it unattainable? Or like how do you know that reading a book about something like gives you confidence in understanding what you're actually doing and like looking at it?
Well, I don't. I mean, you invest. How do you know? Like you know more than I do. But I think that I don't know. I think that you know, reading books is a really good way to start. And I don't, and you know, there's people out there, like there's this, you know, like the Choose Fi podcast has a community, and you can like find Facebook groups about stuff like that. And I think that those are really good for learning. That group is specifically focused on being financially independent before you're like.
Is there a delineation? Like, what do they consider financially independent?
Financially independent essentially means that you can leave your job and it doesn't hurt you financially.
Leave your job. Okay.
So
I thought when I hear it, I kind of think of like you spend money without thinking, like without it hurting you. You spend money when you need to spend the money, and you don't have to worry about it. Like your bills are paid for, you don't have to worry about it. Or if your tires go out on your car, like you can replace them because you don't have to worry about it because you have the money to spend on it when you need to. And
I mean, if that was the case, then I'm financially independent, and I'm definitely not. So I suppose
it's about leaving your job. It sounds like it's more like retirement kind of.
Yeah, so it's like we were talking about. We had a little bit of a discussion beforehand, but we were talking about. So the way that this system rolls out is that it's called It's called FIRE. It's the FIRE movement, quote unquote, and it stands for finance.
I can just hear somebody on a keynote stage up at the top with this big fire graphic behind them, and they're like, "Welcome to the FIRE movement. Are you ready to get pumped up?" This is gonna be such a great weekend.
It's called FIRE, so it's financially independent, retire early. Okay, so that's like their whole thing, and it's about maximizing your savings and like they keep saying things like 90% savings rate, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly what that means. I feel like these podcasts really need to come with a thesaurus.
Well, it's one of those things where it gets so deep into it that if they don't re-explain things as if you've never heard it before,
right,
then you're lost.
Totally. Yeah, and they just like assume it really does need like a thesaurus. Thesaurus. I said it right now.
Thesaurus, yeah.
But like, yeah, so they basically it's all these people, you know, that are living on nothing. Like they're like Ryan on crack. Like and I'm like not there because I'm still gonna buy art. Like I'm like one of those people that's still gonna drop $1,000 on a painting, and I'm fine with it. But I do live pretty under my means, but you know, they're very focused on so this is what they say. It's from what I gather after listening to like 10 podcasts. It's just
gonna be an advertisement for this podcast.
Yeah, this is what they say. They say that you can but I mean, like, this is helpful too, because I never thought about this before, because we don't really think about retiring. I mean, I don't think about it when I'm a potter. I'm not, you know, typically that's not the forefront of my conversation. It's I'm gonna work till I die. So in order to retire, they say that a good rule of thumb is to find out how much you need to live on in a year and multiply that by 25. So it's the rule of 25 or something like that. And so what that gives you is the amount of money that you would potentially need to like get to before, like, that would be your benchmark for retirement.
And this is like a family income? Like a family expenses?
Yeah, like whoever, like the whole family. So, like me, this is a very generous yearly expense of mine is $40,000. Okay, so $40,000 times 25 is $1 million. So I would need $1 million to retire. And then once you retire, then that money compounds because you're making interest off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, and like essentially these people that are retiring at like 30 and 40 or whatever and have found
That sounds so terrible. That's part of the thing when I listen to them. I'm like, they're talking about finding I'm like, oh god,
it's a cult. Anyway, once they've gotten there, then it's not necessarily means that you're going to stop working, but that you could if you needed to, if something happened, or if you want to go traveling, you can. Like if you want to work half the year, you can, stuff like that. So that's kind of the idea about it.
Yeah, I've the other podcasts that I've listened to similar to that in the past. There's like thousands of episodes, but like Dave Ramsey stuff. Listening to those, like he does a good job of like re-explaining the topics of what an emergency fund and debt snowball and baby steps and all those kind of things. So, like generally, I would say I'm like loosely following that.
Right.
And I like some of the principles. I'm not like completely like no credit cards or anything like that, but I like the ideas of avoiding debt when you can. Like if I get another car, I'm probably not gonna pay for it out of pocket, but I will put a big chunk toward it and pay that thing down quickly, and not like living under my means and not buying stupid shit.
You definitely don't buy stupid shit. If there's anything that Ryan doesn't do, it's buy stupid shit.
Like if I see an ad on something, I'll be like, fuck. Like I do not get swayed at all by ads. I'm like, fuck that. I know what they're trying to do. Like,
I buy stupid shit. I'm 100%.
When you were looking at your Amazon thing, it kind of made me think. I was like, Rachel, how much do you think we spend on Amazon a month? It's probably something similar to what you had, but I mean, I barely buy anything. But
in January on Amazon, I spent like $600, but I'm pretty sure that a lot.
Though.
Yeah, I moved, so yeah, and now it's down to like 300 or 200 or something like that. But yeah, I for a long time, a while ago, I just deleted Amazon, and it was fantastic, and it was such a great moment.
What does that mean? You deleted the app off your phone?
Yeah, and I didn't use it. I like did not buy anything off Amazon.
Increase that friction, so it's harder for you to.
Yeah, and that's another thing I was talking about this week. Like, so, I have 2 bank accounts. Do you have 2 bank accounts? You have Fidelity, and then you have Chase.
I have a joint checking, joint savings, business checking, Fidelity, and I have a Ameritrade one and I have an HSA too. I have like 6 bank accounts.
Okay, cool. You also have a wife, so that makes sense. I have 2 because my savings account. Well, I guess I have 2 banks. So I have one in Washington, and then I have Fidelity. And I was saying that, I was talking this week about saving and stuff, and I think that it's so hard to save as an artist, but what makes it a little bit easier is that my Fidelity account, like, I forget the password. like I don't even know how to get to it on my computer. I only can get onto it on my phone because
it's like auto logged in or something.
Yeah, and so like I completely forget the password, and like I pretty much lock myself out of it probably once a quarter. And have to call them and be like, can you please unlock me? But it's like super inconvenient for me to get to. So it's a really ideal situation for me to save because I can transfer it into there and I don't have to look at it automatically, but I can't get any, and it takes like 12 days for it to get anything out. Like if you transfer it to another bank, it takes like 10 days. And I'm like, jeez. I don't have that time, which is so fantastic because then I don't have to worry about it. It's like,
I mean, you shouldn't be moving money in and out of investment accounts anyways. Like those should be for the long term. So,
well, I have a checking account with Fidelity too.
Oh, but I got you.
Yeah, like I have a checking and savings account, but Yeah, so I was thinking that, I don't know, this is kind of like spitballing around all these different money ideas, but it's just been on my mind. I feel like I don't know, we as a community don't talk about actual money enough. And this whole idea of a starving artist is absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, I've been lucky because I sold a house, so I got money from that. But, like, the steps to getting there were not anything spectacular, you know? And,
And were you using your? Did you initially get into getting that house from your ceramics income, or was it before you even started ceramics full time that you like made the down payment and like got
I
the
didn't,
mortgage and stuff?
Ryan, I didn't make a down payment on my house.
Oh, you didn't.
No. So, like,
These
that's the
days, I
thing.
feel like you have to with the housing right now.
I know. I got really lucky.
Or maybe you don't. I don't know.
Well, so, you know, when Obama was president, he brought in that first time home buyer situation where you could get a home for with no down payment. And since it was
With
my first house,
something PI, private mortgage,
yeah.
PMI, private
Yeah,
mortgage
PMI.
insurance.
Yeah, so I
Or
bought
whatever
the
they call it.
house for basically like the cost of flood insurance, and which was $1,100. So, and I have really good credit, and so that helped. But yeah, so I like didn't buy the house with basically anything, and I got really lucky in that regard. But I was still making $40,000. That's how much I was making to get that house, and I probably shouldn't have bought the house. Like it probably wasn't even in my income like correct
Range.
like range. I think it was $150,000, and then when I sold it, it was 260. I sold it for 260. So, but like I didn't put any money into it, and like, you know, I don't know. Does it feel like to you that our society is so much about like saving, but there's no action involved? That's what I feel like.
No action. What do you mean by action?
Like, you know, so many people our age and younger still live at their parents' house, which I'm not going to get into that. But, like, you know, the reason is because they're saving for a house, or they're saving to do this, or they're saving to do that. But then, like, 9 out of 10 times when I hear that, I don't see anything take place after. You know, it's,
Like they're
we say,
saving for that end goal, but that end goal doesn't come as quickly as they like
yeah, it
project
never
it to,
comes.
or
Yeah, it never comes, and we kind of like. I live my life in a way that you just have to do it. Like, if an opportunity arises, you do it, and
what do you mean? Do you mean you spend the money when an opportunity comes up? Is that what you're talking about when you're
kind of, but
deciding
like you
whether
know,
to save or spend?
yeah, like I just feel like, especially like with finances and stuff, everybody is so scared to do anything with money because it's, you know, money's precious, and I don't know what I'm saying, but
I don't
like,
know what you're saying. Are you saying people are more? I feel like we're training people to be consumers. I feel like saving is not sexy. People don't want to hear about how much money you're saving. Who gives a shit? Like,
no,
that's not
saving
sexy to
isn't
say
sexy.
I've got $40,000 in the bank or whatever. It's like, good for you. It's, you know, I feel like it's not sexy to say I saved. It's more sexy to show people like I've got these cool things that you can see outwardly. People
Yeah.
don't want to see your bank account. I feel like that's seen as like showing off or whatever. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Thank you for that.
I feel like that's what we're trained more when we see other people, and like social media propagates that, and you know, people want to share the cool stuff that they got. And
Yeah, that's
but
true.
I don't
But
know,
then
maybe
like,
the younger generation of people that are coming up that are like in tech and stuff, like maybe they have more savings and you don't even know about it. Like they dress super
well, I would hope
casual,
so.
you have no idea.
Yeah, that'd be great. What was I gonna say? I also think that in regards to like business and when you're saving money for like when you're spending, well, we've had, you ran into this year. You made a bunch of money this year and you saved that instead of spending it, and it came to kind of like bite you in the ass. But
it's gonna be ongoing.
it's gonna, yeah, but like it's so interesting. Like, okay, with a business, do you have a really shitty piece of equipment that you got for free, or do you buy one that's more reliable that maybe
It's gonna work for the long run,
right? Like, what is, so we're switching gears because I don't know, but but like but like what's the right direction to go if you want to be financially responsible, but like
yeah. I mean, I made that money. Like, I want to keep as much money as I can. Why do I have to give such a large chunk to somebody else if I spend, $10,000 of the $40,000 I made? Or it's like, because you have to hand the check over at the end, right? So it's like, or you have to pay the remaining balance at the end of what you didn't pay for.
Yeah.
Because I made more than I expected to. Or maybe I just bite the bullet and pay more throughout the year and like keep paying way more than I need to, because it makes me feel better that I don't have to pay as much. But I mean, it's your money in the end, so like you should only pay what you are required to pay,
Right. Totally.
Like, why overpay? That's kind of like when you get a tax refund. Like, that's not because like you get an extra check. It's like because you paid too much.
You pay, yeah, exactly.
Like that should be your money.
It should be your money. Anyway.
Or it is your money.
Yeah, but like, so what's the best route? Like, what's the best route for a business when you are starting off and when you're continuing to go? Like, is it good to buy a bunch of stuff and go head over heels into going into business, or is it good to like walk your way up and get things as you go? Like, what's going to be the most?
I'm the conservative. Walk your way up. Use things until you cannot use them anymore. Work within your means of what you have. Like, if I'm running low on space, I'm not going to go out and buy a retail space and like get more room that I need and start getting a monthly rent that I have to pay $900 for. Like, I'm pointing at you. I'm not pointing at you. I'm not pointing at you. I'm just saying.
We all make mistakes, Ryan. We all make mistakes.
I'm just saying I'm not going to jump into a rent situation. Like,
right.
But also we're kind of coming to, like, is it going to come to, we have to like change homes,
Right.
Like, what's the effort that goes into that? How much money have I been saving by not having to pay rent somewhere because I'm in my home?
Right.
But also the whole equipment thing. I think you wouldn't say I would, but I mean, I'm getting more comfortable like spending money where I need to, or like,
I think you are. No, I've seen that.
Or like just getting ahead of making sure that when I need to, I can drop a couple $100 on bags for my shows when I need to. Or like I just bought a bunch of clay when I wasn't completely out, but it's like, I'm not going to wait until I'm in desperate need for it, because then something could happen of like, hey, that they're out of stock of clay, and then I'm going to pay more for it and I have to go drive 2 hours to go get it or something like that. Like,
yeah,
I'm a planner in that aspect, that I want to have stockpiled stuff that I'm ready to go with. And that's kind of what I'm comfortable spending the money on, because I know it's going to last me a while. So that I'm not in a desperation situation when something comes up.
Yeah, I can understand that. Man, I look back at all the stuff that I like the past 5 years, 6 years, and I think about how many times I like got into debt and then got out of debt and then got back into debt and then got out of debt and then got back into debt. And like the yo-yo effect of like what was my business, and then the like reality of the fact that if I hadn't made the money from the house and paid off all that debt, I don't think that it would have been. I don't think that I would have. Like,
You would still be digging out of it.
I would be, and the business would be not
What
there.
was the decision making? Like, why did you make those jumps? Like, once you got out of debt, I'm assuming this is business debt. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, business debt.
So, like, why did you, like, for instance, like the first one, was it a bunch of debt to like get the store open?
Well, I started a long time ago in like 2014, and I was trying to. That's when I went full time, and I like just racked up credit card debt, and I am even though
Credit card debt.
Yeah, business credit card debt. That's when I
Okay.
had a business credit card. Even though I now am really good at like saving and like being like pretty even keel and paying off my bills, it was a lot. Like it just got to a lot.
Is it because you bought a bunch of stuff up front to get the business off the ground of buying equipment, buying clay, buying this or that you needed to front load, and then the selling of pots was going to pay that down, and you just
think
never
so.
caught up?
Yeah, I think so. And like, I bought my wheel and that was $800, and then you have to buy glaze material, and then you have to buy clay, and it just like adds up. It really adds up. And then I also had a house. I think I had roommates that were paying the rent. I remember sitting at my desk and I called my mom and I was like, "Mom," and I was doing my budget, and I was like, "Mom, I have nothing I can give up. There is nothing here that I can give up."
Do you
She's
mean
like,
like selling stuff off to make up money to pay your debt down? Is that what you mean?
No, like I had put my budget to the bare minimum that it could be. I think I even had it like
I gotcha.
I think I said the other day it was like $100 for food, but I think it was actually like $75 a month for food. And
Holy crap.
like I was like eating meat and potatoes bare minimum. And I don't know, it's just so fucking hard to get out of debt. I just remember sitting there and just thinking like I can't give up anything. Like I have nothing.
Your
to
budget
give.
can't be any tighter.
It could not
Yeah.
be any tighter. Like I gave up going out to eat. I gave up, like, I never really drank coffee anyway, but like I don't, nothing like that. And then I had $10,000 in debt that I was trying to pay down, and like that's really fucking hard when you're like trying to do that and you're like at the bare bones and you make like literally no money.
Plus, you feel like you're working as hard as you possibly can. I'm sure you were working crazy like hours making pots and stuff, and it's like, what can I do to get this number smaller? Because it's like, do I even have enough to make my budget and pay everything that I have? And it's like what else can I do? Like, what do I have that I can sell off or something, or like,
do you know what I started doing? And it was a pure Gary V moment. So perfect. I started going to Goodwill.
Oh gosh, you were hustling. You're probably buying cheap and selling high.
Yeah, I was hustling. Like I was going to Goodwill on Mondays and getting all the shit for like what is like $1.69 or something. Like all the red tags. So Goodwill every Monday they put all of the tags that were from the week before. Those are like $1.19 or whatever, or $1.99.
Yeah, they're getting rid of old stock, and you're buying it and selling it.
Yeah, I'd buy bread machines for $1.99 and sell them for $20. And like
there you go
on Facebook Marketplace, and like
that you can make some money. Like Rachel's been doing that, and like you can make some money doing that if you know what you're doing. You know the prices. You know kind of how to negotiate. You have to do some
research. Like I would take my phone in and I'm like Googling pots and pans and like what they cost and like what they're worth and all these things, and I'm like sitting on the couches like doing research on.
That is legit like a viable way to make money.
Yeah,
Like,
it
if you want an
is.
extra $500 a month or something, like, you can make that work, or $1,000, like, you can do that.
You can totally make it work, especially like if you're into clothes or something, you could do clothes, but I'm more of like a kitchen utensil type and or like, silver like weird
Hmm.
shit that in the
And now that
luggage
you can
section.
actually ship stuff on Facebook Marketplace, like Rachel
Yeah.
ships stuff all the time, and your market is even bigger because
Yeah.
you can ship it anywhere in the States, pretty much. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to somebody last night and she used to have a side hustle on eBay and she said that it made more than her regular day job. Like selling stuff. And so,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, like you just have to get creative, I suppose. But still, it's tough. Like I'm not saying that it's easy, and it's, I would have gotten there anyway. I feel like because I can't, my personality can't be in debt, but I get too anxious.
So
But
did you kind of look at the reasoning or the kind of situations of what put you in that, of like what got you to pay for stuff with debt versus, like, do you need it right now? Was it a
right,
desperation buy, or was it a, like, nice to have buy?
I think that it was it. Ooh, that's
Or
tough.
does that
Like
change your thought process of how you determine whether you want to buy something or not?
now it does. Like it's definitely been like a journey, right? Like when I bought my kiln, I put down $3,500 for this kiln, right? But I had that in cash, like cold hard cash.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have bought it like a used one. I would not have bought it, and it was completely planned. That was the one like item that I was planning on buying. So, but yeah, I think that, a lot of the, let's see, all of the, all of the big kiln equipment, like the big kilns that I got, those were, those were part of it for the business debt. And, oh, and also I should mention that, like, even though I had, I made $90,000 on the house, that doesn't mean that I moved $20,000 over into my business account. Like that had nothing to do with the business. So
Yeah.
it did pay down some debt, but it was kind of separate. So but yeah, so like when I bought the kilns and the kilns were a lot. Like they were like $5,000. That was a lot. By the end of it, I think that I had a loan for like $12,000, and I pulled out. Let's see, at the beginning of COVID. At the beginning of COVID, I knew that I was going to sell the shop. I think I had known that I was going to sell the shop. I got a $25,000 loan from EIDL. I consolidated all of my debt into that loan. And and I knew I was going to pay it off by the end of the year.
Before you sold and, like, left.
Yeah, I had to pay it off by the end of the year. And then when I was done paying off at the end of the year, like I had to borrow $5,000 from myself to pay that loan off, but that was it.
Yeah.
And then I ended up being 5,000 ahead when I left. But yeah, but it was just like, but yeah, it's just like it starts to add up, like especially the loan situation. That was for specific things. Like the loan was literally for a specific. Oh, it was the electrical. That's what it was. So it was necessary. Yes.
Oh, okay. So you had to pay a big chunk of money to get the power and the electrical. Like, your kilns won't work without a $5,000 electrical job or whatever it was.
Yeah, I think it was $8,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was $8,000, and then the kilns were $5,000. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it was like these big expenses. And had I known that I was going to leave in 2 years, then I probably wouldn't have done it. But But yeah, it's like those things that you just don't expect, because like I was out of debt. I was pretty much out of debt before that. Like I had $500 left or like $1,000 left to pay off.
Yeah.
And then the electrical came, and then those kilns came. So
Yeah, the closest related to that I would kind of perceive, because I've never taken on like business debt or anything. Like every penny that I've made from the business stays in the business.
Yeah.
I've never actually paid myself, which I think moving forward as I get closer to like doing it full time, like I need to start paying myself so that it shows on the books that like I can afford to make this much,
right,
and whatnot. But relating that to like what I've experienced was like home ownership. That takes a lot of money.
Yeah, it does.
So that's kind of the debt relation that I've kind of thought about it. So when we got the house was like super cheap. Like, I mean, would you expect anything different? But so the house was like $120,000. Like,
yeah,
like
you
you've
live
been
in
to our
Kentucky,
house.
so yeah.
Yeah, it's Northern Kentucky. Like it's a good price, and we drop a bunch of money on it when we first get in here. Like, it's first time you're in the house, like there's nothing in there. So, you strip out carpet, you put down, you resurface the hardwood floors. Like that's something that we really wanted. It was not we're going to move in and then we're going to rip out the carpet and do that after. Like you do that before you move in. At least that's what we did. That's $4,000 to redo basically the entire floors of all the rooms except for the living room basically and the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like all the wood floors. So that's like $4,000, and I think we did like a home equity line of credit for that, which is basically just a loan, and it's got like 3% interest. And
doesn't it like tack right onto your mortgage?
No, it's like a separate account.
Oh, okay.
So you pay it separate from your mortgage, but the reason you get that, I think our credit line for that was like $11,000.
Okay.
So that's like I think it's like 10% of your like equity of your home, and that's kind of how it works, or a percentage of your home, and like that's what they're willing to give you. It's basically like its own credit card kind of thing. And it's got a set like percent that you have for interest. So that's kind of what we put the floors on, and then in the house for a year or 2 years, and then we had a bunch of leaking in the studio, right? It's an older house. The inside of the studio is like not waterproofed, but it's also my studio, so like it needs to be something where I don't have a bunch of water filling up and like not flooding. It has a drain, but like a bunch of water in the floor in my studio.
Yeah.
And you get that work done, like that's $10,000. So like that went to the home equity. Like,
yeah, and I know it's just like it is. Owning a house is just like starting a business. It's basically the same thing. You just have to decide where that money is going and what you want to allocate like the funds to.
And it's like, what is a necessity? What's a nice to have? We obviously have those. Well, not obviously, but we have those conversations, Rachel and I, a lot of. What should we spend our money on? What shouldn't we spend our money on? What can you live with? What can't you live with?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I relate a lot of the business debt talk to. We got like a nice to have in the back we just got like a French drain put back there, and helps with the drainage of our house because we're reducing the amount of water that's coming onto the deck and
they're
hitting the house. And so like we did the waterproofing inside, but we also did the French drain outside, but we're also going to do like a deck on the back. So we're going to spend a bunch of money there. And, this time when we had that French drain put in, like we could drop $5,000 out of our bank account and pay for it out of pocket. We didn't have to take a loan out. We didn't have to, that's part of the money like we're saving. And it's like, we can hand over that money. We also know that's going to add equity to the home, and it's going to help the home. I mean, with the business, like, you have those assets of like the kilns and stuff, so they do have value.
They do have value,
and selling that off is helping you pay down that debt, but it doesn't have 100% of what you bought it for, kind of thing. It like depreciates and all that. So
I think about the studio, and I think about like how, if it had been a studio that was just mine, like my studio, it would be so different as opposed to like having a studio that other people walk into. Because like at that point you're like, oh, I have to, we did it really like cheap comparatively. Like we started it with $10,000. Like I got a $10,000 loan from my parents. Can I tell a funny story?
No,
Really
no
quick?
funny stories here.
Okay. So
Yes, funny story.
I got a
Go.
$10,000. I'm going to preface this with my dad is the sweetest person alive, okay? I got a $10,000 loan from my parents. I had to do a business plan. I had to, like, tell them what I was going to do, all the things, but I knew that I wasn't going to be able to get a loan from a bank because I'm not an idiot and I made no money. So anyway, I got it from my parents, and when I talked to my dad, we agreed, me and him both agreed that it would be a 5% interest on $10,000. And that was my assumption for like the whole term of this loan almost. Okay. So then that was in 2017, end of 2017. Then I sold the house in 2018. So about a year had gone by. I'd paid the loan every single month, all the things. And, and I'm talking to my mom on the phone, and I was like, I want to pay down that loan. And she's like, no, don't pay down the loan from us. Like, she didn't want me to pay down the loan because she thought there was no interest on the loan. And so she's like, no, don't pay down the loan. And I was like, well, it's 5% interest. I want to pay it down. And I could hear my mother looking at my father with like the wrath.
She was like, you made your daughter pay interest on this thing? But the thing is, the interest incentivizes you, so it's like...
I know, it totally did. And my dad was like, yeah. And I felt so bad because it was a decision that we both made together. Like, but my mom was like, no, my children are not paying interest on the loan.
Right. See, I thought you were going to say you got near the end of it, and he was just going to say, oh, you've paid the principal. Like, don't worry about the rest of the interest that you owe. And
No,
he was
my
just
dad
going to,
wouldn't do
like chop it off early and be like, oh, surprise, you don't have to pay the extra interest.
My dad wouldn't do that.
Okay.
My dad's so hardcore. Like, he's a super sweet man, but the first time I ever got a job, we went out to dinner and he was like, so you're paying for dinner? Like, my dad wouldn't do that. He's just not that way. So, and like, he's just very straightforward with money, and that's just the way he is. And I mean, that's why he's been super successful. And he had a regular run of the mill job, with 3 kids. So, but anyway, that's my funny story about the loan. But, yeah, I think about if I had a studio that was my own versus a studio that everybody else came into, and I imagine that I would be in a very different position if it was just a personal studio. Because
is that because you would have had the front-facing like customer area that would have looked like presentable and like nice, and then behind the curtain it would have been like completely
a total shit
different.
show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I still did it really cheap, but, like, you have to have 6 wheels, and you have to have, like, all these things. You got to pay for bats. You got to, like, well, if you do bats, you have to pay for, you got to get a slab roller. You got to do all these things, blah, 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 blah. There's just so much that everybody has to have, and when it's just you're like, I don't need that. Like, this is what I use. Like, in my studio now, I have a quarter of you saw it's like a quarter of the stuff, not even, maybe an eighth.
You have the bare essentials, and like those are the things you use on a regular basis.
Yeah, and that's it.
But I mean, one thing is when you start teaching or something, like you could start with the wheels and you don't have any slab roller. Like you start making money from the teaching, and then you pay $300 or $400 for a slab roller. Yeah. Or I don't know how much they cost. I would assume $300 or $400
They're
would get you $800. Okay. So like teach for 5 months or something, and then you can, I don't know, I'm just guesstimating, but teach for a few months, and then you scale up and say, hey, we just got a new slab roller. We're offering hand building classes. We're going to teach you how to do this project. Yeah. And if you didn't need a slab roller, right? So, and I had like a mini slab roller for years.
even with the studio. It took me, I think, a year to get an actual slab roller in the studio. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just money sucks.
So I had a question as you're growing and figuring things out, do you change how do you determine like a baseline of like what to start paying yourself? And as your business starts growing, do you just start increasing how much you're paying yourself? Or is it good to like set a defined number of this is how much I need, this is how much I'm going to make? Because if you start paying yourself more, does that just mean you're going to start spending money like you don't really need to? Or
yeah, that's you know what? I'm glad you said that, because we should definitely talk about this.
Because I'm going to have to start paying myself, and I'm like, I don't need
right.
that money, but how much do I pay myself?
Right. Okay. So, yeah, I think that's a really good decision. Or a really good thing to talk about, because I did not do this correctly, but I know people that have done this correctly. So I'm going to talk about what you should do, not what I did. But I mean, towards the end, I probably did it correctly. But anyway, moving on. So I think that you definitely need to like predetermine how much you need to live. Like, you are a little bit different because you're not going to need that. So you might give yourself a little bit less. But it's so important as a sole proprietor. I think that we're accustomed to just be like, oh, I'm going to take $300 owner's draw. Or, oh, I'm going to take $600 owner's draw because that's what I need to pay my bills right now. And I think it's really important to set a schedule and to set an amount. So pay yourself twice a month, pay yourself weekly, pay yourself monthly, whatever it may be.
What do you keep that standard, whether it's a good month or a bad month? You just keep paying yourself? Okay.
Yes, because
you don't like change it by like, oh, I didn't make as much money this month, I need to take $300 versus $700.
You need to make yourself accountable to that. You're never going to be successful if you're like, oh, I didn't make like it. Let's say you're paying yourself $500. We're going to be really
like, do I buy clay or do I pay myself $700? It's like,
no, you pay yourself first. Always pay yourself first and figure the rest out. If you need a hustle, you need a hustle. You need to do a flash sale. You need to do whatever. When you need money, you find money, as we always say. But
a dollar's a dollar.
Dollar's a dollar. A dollar's a dollar. When you need money, find money. But like, yeah.
And don't be like Becca. Let's throw that trifecta in there.
Yeah, don't be like Becca. But yeah, so I think definitely you need it. And what would be ideal is if it was an automatic withdrawal. So it was like, okay, I'm withdrawing. This is why you need a separate bank account. I'm withdrawing $500 every 2 weeks from my bank account to my personal bank account. And you need to make sure that happens, essentially.
Making some notes.
Because if you can't pay yourself, you can't live. And that's important. And so like for you, when you already have a job, I would just say generally just pick a number and pay yourself, and then just put it into a high yield savings account or something like that, or invest it. Like,
yeah, I think because I'm gonna talk to my there's like a small business person that helps us with our taxes, but also he has small business stuff. But I was gonna ask him like, is it better for me once I start paying myself? Should I put that directly into like a separate IRA account? Will
like
that benefit? Or because we already pay into a 401k for my job, and we are also pay into a Roth IRA, so or Roth 401k, one of the two. And like, am I at capacity? Do I still have more money? Like, should I be paying out of the business toward that pot of money still? Or, I feel the way I think of the savings account and the like a retirement account, it gives me more confidence that I have a pot of money there once I go full time.
Do you have any accounts that are not retirement accounts? Like I have a Roth, is it a Roth? Roth, I think. What? It's not a Roth, but it's a WROS. I want to say
WROS.
I'm looking it up right now.
I mean, I have a savings account.
Accounts. Joint. It is Ross. It's WROS. I have a joint Ross, and it's basically.
What does that stand for? What is that?
I don't fucking know. It's
Where's that at? Is that Infidelity?
yeah, it's Infidelity. It's an investment account, but it's not like a retirement account. So, it's like it's not a checking account.
It's
but
a
it's
money
an
market
investment
account?
Yeah, it's like a money market account.
Okay.
I'll
Which
look it
makes
up.
like 3% or something instead of a less than 1% what a typical checking or savings account makes.
Yes, it makes 0.08 cents every month.
Well, that's going to vary based on what your pot of money is in there, but yeah.
But it's reinvesting that. So my interest earned was 8 cents, and then it reinvested that 8 cents.
It's like a dividend. You get an 8-cent dividend.
This account has $15,000 in it, and
Okay.
so it doesn't have like a ton. Like, I mean, it has a lot of money, but it doesn't have like a ton of money into it, and that's why it's 8 cents. Anyway. Yeah, so like you could do one of those where it's like a little bit higher interest earning and then invest the money, and then that way you're still growing money and you could still take it out without any penalty. That is something too, because
I think the paying myself just gives me like peace of mind. Like it's starting to pay myself back for the work that I've done thus far. Yeah. Like I feel like I need to reward myself a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that putting it into an account like
that it's okay to take money out.
Yeah, and I think that putting it into an account like that where you can take it out and you can like enjoy it if you needed to or if you wanted to is a good idea, because if you're putting it into an IRA, it's kind of stuck there. And you can't really do anything with that. So like why not have some that like is, hey, me and Rachel want to go on a vacation and we're going to use this money. That might be a good idea.
Yeah. We just pay out of the savings account for that. We just kind of are like, hey, we got that pot of money. Like, it's dropping the bucket from that pot to go on. Well,
yeah, but I mean, like,
trip.
This is
it's
like another
savings
account. Yeah. What was I going to say? Okay.
I mean, the way I save money, I would just build these pots of money that just keep growing, and I don't ever spend it. That's
I know, because you're a saver.
I would never spend it.
You're a saver, and we're all jealous of you for that. I am not naturally a saver. I'm looking up the Ross meaning.
Ross.
Well, what it means in Nebraska is with rights of survivorship.
With rights of survivorship. That sounds like a... That sounds like a... What do you call that? A will or something?
With rights of survivorship. Yeah,
no
but
idea.
Definitely you need to start paying yourself first. Oh my god, it really does mean with rights of survivorship. What the fuck does that mean?
I don't know. So, you pick a number. Is that... I feel like it's harder when you're in a family of like, how much do I need to make up for? How much can I will it? Because it's flexible. Like, you choose what you want to take out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can always go the route of like, how much am I working every day? Like, you could make it like an actual, you could make it like an actual job. Like how, or you could pay yourself per piece or what have you,
That's a good idea.
That's an interesting way to do it. If you paid yourself per piece but personally, like,
I'd probably do it hourly. Like, hourly might be good.
Yeah. So if you wanted to pay yourself $35 an hour, let's say.
Yeah.
And you worked this amount, like, but that doesn't work if you're like a workaholic and work more than, I mean, it does work, but
that'd be like $4,000 a month.
Yeah.
If I work like 30-ish hours in the studio, which I probably do anyways. Like, I'm not going to pay myself $4,000. I was thinking like $1,500 or like $1,000 to like get started.
For you, that's something. But like for somebody that this is their whole entire job, $4,000 a month might be what is what's reasonable. And at that point, that means you probably need to be making about $6,000 a month in your business. And Larry Bruning always said, he was like, when you have to start feeding the kids, you figure out how to make the money. You know, like basically a lot of the times you're not motivated enough until you have until you have to put food on the table. And but I do think
the industry we're in, it's flexible. It can ebb and flow. Like, there's ways that you can, like, at the end of the day, saying, like, I can't make that work. Like, okay, what's reasonable? Like, what is within reach? What can we do to make up the difference? You know?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it sounds like you're you're living outside of your means.
Yeah. Do you want to know what a joint Ross is? I found it.
Sure. What is it?
Okay. With this being said, I remember I opened this up with my mom. So, like, many, many moons ago, I opened it up with my mom. So, joint Ross is a type of ownership that can be used for real estate, checking, savings, mutual fund, and brokerage fund accounts. All tenants have an equal right to the account's assets and are afforded survivorship rights in the event of the death of another account holder. The concept also applies to real estate property.
So you kind of equally own the account.
Right. But my mom hasn't been in my bank account for years, so even though I still get a checking card for her. I think I got a side credit card from my parents that I would have just in case of emergencies, kind of thing. It's like, but like I was like, you know, I wasn't side by side with it. It probably wasn't that way. It was probably this is side by side, and the only reason she did that because I would transfer money to her, and it was just easier that way.
Yeah.
But yes, that's what a joint Ross is. But yeah, I think that, I mean, that's tough to decide, but I think that especially if this is your sole job, you need to be looking at your expenses, adding up your expenses, what that means, and then, you know, positioning your pay around your expenses, and then adding in some savings, like if you want to do charity, if you want to, definitely if you have enough, put in enough, like even if it's $50 to an IRA, that's better than nothing, you know. Like,
I mean, it's gonna grow, so the thing is, you put it there, you're not gonna touch it.
Yeah.
You know, $50 a little bit at a time is gonna grow to $1,000, and like keep putting money in there, it's gonna grow. And you're not gonna touch it for years, like decades. Starting early, I feel like is, you know, I got into that habit when I started working, like, period. You know, when I first got my first full-time job, like, you put a bunch of money in there. If you don't need that money, why let it grow into an account that's going to make like 0.01% of interest? Put it into account. Like, if it just makes you feel good to see that savings account grow, like, all right, but like, put it in something that's going to grow over time. Like, put more money in your retirement if you can.
How much interest does a retirement account grow?
It depends on what funds you put it in, but I mean, I have it in different mutual funds or
but
whatnot.
yeah, so
it depends on what their growth rate is, but I feel like Dave Ramsey always says if you have it in good invested mutual funds, every 7 years it'll double.
Okay. Okay, so with that being said, the reason I asked that
I feel like
is because
7% is like if
you're putting in money to an IRA, if you just leave it there, it's going to stay the same. You do have to, like, invest it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was assuming that you put it in something that is invested into some kind of mutual fund. It's not just a pot that's like a savings account.
I know.
Is an IRA just like a savings account?
Yeah.
I thought an IRA was, like, actually, like, diversifying it in some kind of investment.
No, you have to do that.
Well, yeah, but I thought that was part of it. You do that along with when money goes in there, 10% of it goes to this pot, 20% goes to this pot, 50% goes to this pot.
I thought
you would determine that when you set it up. I don't know. I have 401k, and 401k you have to pick how the investments are diversified. Typically, when you join a job, and it's like already built in. They try to give you those like target date funds. Like, hey, I'm gonna get this target fund that's gonna, I'm going to retire it in 2065 or something like that. That's kind
Yeah.
of what they'll start you at. But those returns are lower. Like they're usually like 5% or something. But if you put it in the right funds that are better, like right now I have them mixed between large cap, small cap, international, and what's the other one? Mixed or blend or something like that. So it's like 4 different ones, and I figured this percentage out with my mom and her investment firm or whatever. The thing you'll look at is like, what are the fees? So like, are the fees low, of like management fees? Usually if you pick like a Vanguard account or something, like the fees are going to be super low. It's like 1% or point something percent, versus like a 3% fee of like they manage it and they take more money out of it because they're like spending more time managing it, and it's potentially going to get more returns, but you're paying more in fees.
Yeah. See, this is
So
the stuff
you, like,
that
figure
I'm
out-
like learning. Like, I don't know like any of this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I just kind of, I'm just threw myself into the investment stuff. My dad was like, buy Fidelity this. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I feel
So
like
I guess I know more than I think I do.
I think you do too. That's why I was saying, yeah. So like I just kind of like pick things out and I do a little bit of research, but that's why I'm reading this book about investing and trying to really get a better understanding of it. But yeah, like I didn't know any of that. What you just said. I don't even know what a low cap is. So
What?
what low cap,
Low cap,
and high cap?
low cap, mid cap. So like large cap would be like humongous businesses. Think of like Amazon,
Okay.
Google, like big cap, huge businesses, $1 million, $1 billion businesses. That's kind of what large cap means. It's like it's a mutual fund that has a bunch of different big businesses in it. That's kind of what it means by like large cap. Mid cap would be like medium sized businesses. Small cap would be like smaller businesses that are public, but they happen to be smaller. And like by small, it could be like 500 employees or less or something like that.
Right.
500 employees or less. I don't know if that sounded like I said 5, but and then international is like investing in international companies that you don't want it all U.S. based, because what if the U.S. dollar like drops a ton? Then all of your funds are in the U.S. and it's relying on the U.S. to be killing it on the stock market. But if it all drops, then all your funds are going to drop. So you have some international ones. And then I think the other one's a blend of like, it's a blend of mixed or maybe it's like growth or something like that, or I can't remember, but it's a fourth one. I can't remember what it is, but they kind of figured out the percentages of like, 30% to this, 20% to that, 10% here, and like 40% here, or whatever the numbers are.
Yeah, and that's
what I did.
Yeah. Okay. Vanguard's like an index fund, right?
Vanguard is just, I think Vanguard is similar to like a Fidelity, but it's like a
Yeah. And
but there's a bunch of funds that are in the Vanguard like name, and usually
yeah.
those are lower fee funds that you could buy. And the reason you buy an index fund is versus a single stock is like you're investing in a lot of different companies there.
Right.
There's less risk investing in that because you're betting on the, it could be an industry one like technology index fund or mutual fund or whatever. Like you're betting on all of these companies as a whole on average being in a good state versus like what's the risk of an entire industry going down versus like Apple as a solo stock going completely down,
Right.
It's just less risk.
Well, I'll tell you what, just on a side note, the market was fucking terrible today.
I did look at it today. It was lower. Yes.
I lost $800. But also, it's for the long term anyway.
Yeah.
It goes up.
I guess the one beneficial thing when I do look at what to buy I'll generally look at the 5 to 10 year thing. Like, what's the
Yeah.
growth percentage over 5 to 10 years, not 1 to 3 years. Like, I'm
Right.
investing in this thing for a long time. So, I never sell a stock that's short term. It has to be
Yeah.
at least a year old before I sell it, and most likely I won't sell it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a saver, so I'm gonna save it. But
I was listening to when I was listening to this white coat investor that tells all these doctors how to do the stock market. He was saying that he has like a plan. He has like a investment plan that he does, and part of that is that like they have to make, if they're gonna sell something or whatever, it's got to be like 3 months out. They want to sit on it for 3 months and decide what they're gonna do. And
you mean they own it for at least 3 months, or they like think about selling it and then they're like, okay, let's wait another 3 months. Within this 3-month window,
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Like watch it and stuff. So I thought that was good. Like to make a plan that was like, like a written out plan. That's like, okay, we're not gonna do this. If it drops below this, we're gonna sell. If it doesn't, or whatever, different rules essentially for that. But yeah, that side tangent was to say that you should definitely be putting your money into an IRA and start investing now, even if it's $50 a month. And everybody can afford $50 a month. That's what I've decided. $50 is a good amount. If you
$50, get it in there, forget about it,
and do it at the beginning of the month. Because
it's gonna do its work. Yeah.
Yeah. If you do it at the beginning of the month, then it's already gone, and you'll have to figure out the rest. Not everybody. Okay, I realize that not everybody has $50 extra a month. Most people do. They just don't know where it is. They're like, oh, I don't have $50 a month. I went to Starbucks yesterday. So
yeah, you can't go back and return that Starbucks and unbuy the thing you just bought off Amazon for $12. Like,
yeah. So
you can return it, but
yeah. But trust me, I've been there. I've been to the point where I did not have the $50 extra a month. I've eaten only hard-boiled eggs for a while, so I get it. But yeah, if you can get to that point, just $50. That's it, $50. Yeah. I feel like we should wind down. I don't know if this really had any like plot to it, but
oh,
there was a really
iffy
iffy part right in the middle.
When the internet cut out, or just when we were talking?
No, just when we were talking. I was like, I don't know what I'm actually fucking talking about. Here we are. That was when you were like, I don't understand what you're saying.
I was trying to ask questions back to understand what you're talking about, so we can give some clarity. Because if I can't understand what the fuck you're talking about, I don't know that they're gonna understand what the fuck you're talking about.
I apologize for that whole 5 minutes of conversation.
Oh.
I feel like every end of the episode, I'm apologizing for something.
Well, that's why I try to ask the right questions to tease out and get more things out of you that maybe I would typically over-explain, but I like to tease out some more.
Yeah. We really do need to get Tripp onto the podcast.
Yes, we need to make a visit to Louisville together and figure out a time. We need to clean.
We should just do it on Skype.
We could do it on Skype.
Maybe
I mean, that makes the timing more flexible, obviously.
Yeah, and then he can't bail on us.
Yeah.
I mean, he could. I could bail on us, too.
We would have to do it earlier, though. It'd probably have to be like 7 p.m. kind of thing or something, but
yeah,
we'll figure it out.
Anyway, yeah. Do you have any last thoughts on money?
No. I mean, we talked about this a little bit offline, but I'm reluctant to talk about some things because I don't want to talk about the personal stuff because I'm in a position where it's like, I don't want to seem like I'm gloating or bragging.
Right.
But it's a situation I'm in, and it's not that I don't feel like I'm unrelatable because of that, because I still live frugally and I still, like, I'm a cheapskate.
Right.
But
I definitely think that anybody that has listened to more than 2 episodes realizes that you live just like everybody else, or
yeah.
or less.
Even and then even some of the like business stuff, like I'm fine sharing it if people ask, but I don't want to share it in the thought that I'm doing it to brag, like talking
Yeah.
about the shows and stuff. Like we cheered about how much I sold at shows, like that's showing that I'm progressing, I'm getting better, I'm understanding the market,
Yeah.
I'm refining. Like I've sold at a lot of shows, like I've probably hit like 75 shows I've sold at.
Yeah.
Like those numbers definitely improve, like help me get to this state. Like
Totally.
I couldn't have sold $4,000 worth if I sold at like 2 shows in the past or 5 shows. Like there's
Right.
things that you learn over
Like there's a
repetition.
progression.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely yeah, I agree. And we were talking about it before, and like even with the amount of money that I have in my account, which is not even that much. Like my personal account, which is not even that much. Like it's scary to talk about this stuff because and that's probably a lot why all of this conversation is really jumbled as well, because you know, you have to be delicate in the way that you discuss money anywhere, just because it's like so such a touchy subject. Like there's people that don't have money, there's people that have tons of money, there's people that are right in the middle, and people don't share that kind of stuff, and nor do they need to, because it's a personal, it's personal. But we are, in a position that we can share to educate, and but it's still a tough position to be in, because you never know. Somebody could come back and be like, well, you make this much money, or you have this much money,
Yeah.
and blah blah blah.
Is it because it feels like it's like a status thing, or like a hierarchical thing, or um a like a jealousy thing,
Maybe I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
It's-
Like I don't view money like
or
that.
indie thing?
I'm kind of like a team player, in the sense of, if you're like if you're a millionaire, or if you make this much money, like that's fucking awesome. Like I'm super proud of you. Like yeah, it's like how my parents, like I brag about my parents all the time and how much money they make, and have like, how well they're doing. It has nothing to do with me. I like
You're just happy for them.
I'm
and you're
happy
like,
for them. I get nothing from it, like nothing from it. And so it's other than the occasional loan at 5% interest. But but like I think it's so cool to be successful, and I think it's also so cool to be vulnerable and say I'm not successful and I'd love to be, or I'm not where I am financially, like I want to be financially, and how do I get there? I think that it's great to share all that stuff, but it is still super hard. It's not something to be taken lightly, I feel like.
and it's all relative to what your risk tolerance with, like,
Yeah.
like I am super like risk averse or whatever. Like I want to make the most educated decision with the least amount of risk, or somewhat least risk. So like I got a comment one time with somebody saying, you get a lot of different followers and people that dip in and out. Like they don't know your story, they don't know who you are. And
Yeah.
I got a comment once that was talking about, oh, you're at 30,000 followers, but you don't do this full time. Like, what's going on? Or like, you should be. Or if you can't make it with 30,000 followers, then like, what the hell? Or something like that.
That's such bullshit.
Like an expectation. And I kind of responded. I was like, the 30,000 means nothing. Just because you have a number on your screen doesn't mean that you are killing it and you're making like
So true.
bank. And like, it's deceiving. It's not, there's nothing equated to that number. It's just a number.
Yeah.
You can't put so much weight on it and assume that somebody that has 1,000 followers is struggling compared to somebody that's making 30,000 followers or something like that.
Right.
It's completely different
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, there's people that have 1,000 followers that I know for a fact that make more money than some of the people that have 50,000 followers, you know? And just because they've got their community backing them and they don't need social media. Like, you know, sometimes you just don't need social media. And that's okay. And that's fine.
And it's a different skill set. And it's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like I treat the social media side of it professional, and I treat it like a business, and
Right.
I put the effort into it, and I do the work to get out of it what I want to hopefully get out of it what I put into it without too much drain, like mentally, from all the work put into it. But you know, it's not a means of just like doing it to show status or
Right.
success or
Yeah.
anything like that. Like, I'll tell somebody, like, hey, I don't do this full time, I do it part time, just because it looks like on my account that I do this full time and I'm cranking out pots, and they'll be like, oh, you don't do this full time? What? I assumed you were.
You'd be like,
no,
no, I'm a superhero.
No, that's why I keep on my profile, it says aspiring business owner or aspiring small business owner, I think. Like, I'm
Yeah.
still aspiring
Yeah.
because I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah, it is fine. It's totally fine. Anyway, yeah, it is. It's hard to talk about, but it sometimes needs to be talked about. And I've gotten a fair amount of people in the past couple days saying thank you for being so candid. I mean, like, I put my budget out, like, out there. I literally showed my bank statements. So.
And you showed your like expenses and or your income and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's like some of it's embarrassing. It's like, holy shit, I spent $600 on Amazon. Like, what the fuck? Or like, I spent $300 in Venmo. Like, you know, some of that stuff's like, why? I mean, like, I'm still in the black, but like, you know, it's like, dang, I could have done better, you know, but I think that people sometimes also need to see that we struggle, even though we feel like we've got our shit together, you know? But, yeah. Money, money, money. Money, money, money. 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 And with that...
we leave you here.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate it, and we're having so much fun. If you want to follow us individually on Instagram, you totally can. Ryan's Instagram handle is @RDCeramics, and mine is 5 Lines Pottery. That's the number 5. We would love to hear from you, and don't forget to write us a review on our podcast. We read every single one of them, and we totally appreciate them. They help us out an awful lot, and they also put smiles on our faces. I hope you guys continue to listen, and we love you. Thanks. Bye.